With the Ryzen 3000 series processors being released very soon here on July 7th, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the X570 motherboards that are about to hit the market. Let's dive right in. All right, so we're going to take a look at what we've got here. First off, there are going to be quite a few high-end and mid-range X570 motherboards. They're going to be released along with or shortly after the Ryzen 3000 series processors starting hitting the market. First thing I want to look at is some prices that I got this right off The Verge. Don't worry, I'm not going to take their computer building advice. I'm assuming that these are a little bit more accurate than what that was. I don't need any tweezers or Riv Strong bracelets. Not today anyway. So here's the expected lineup. You're going to have anywhere from the Ryzen 5 3600, 3600X, Ryzen 7 3700X, 3800X, and the Ryzen 9 3900X. Prices are going to be expected to be ranging from $199 all the way up to the $499 range for that Ryzen 9 3900X. You know, we'll see how accurate these are when launch comes. Obviously, things can change. And then we'll see what comes here from there with their additional the 16-core 32-thread processor. I believe they were talking about prices somewhere around that $750 range if that does happen. They're going to have some motherboards to put these things in. At least they're hoping for people to take advantage of the X570 chipset so that you can use the PCIe 4.0. And frankly, that's the main feature of the X570. Not much differences between the X470 and the X570 motherboards. Myself, I'm going to, right off the bat, grab an X470, probably a Crosshair 7 Hero with Wi-Fi. And being that I've got the Crosshair 6, and works great. Oops. And it works great. Here's what we're going to do. First off, I just wanted to dive into a couple things that I had noticed on Republic of Gamers ASUS.com website, so rog.asus.com. I will post a link in the description below for everything. I will be referencing a couple other sites, mostly the manufacturers' websites, as well as a couple of external websites for reference, I guess, pricing and whatnot. I'm really a big ASUS guy in the sense of I like their BIOS more than anything. Their hardware is really nice. It works great, but I really like their BIOS. It's one of the main things that I like working in. So just kind of glancing through here, we're talking about, you know, what their motherboards they're going to be offering. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom past all this stuff. They'll be talking about the 802.11 AX Wi-Fi, which is going to be great. You know, Wi-Fi 6s are going to call it. And we'll just talk here about what they're going to be releasing. So you're going to have the Crosshair Crosshair 7 Formula, which is going to be their high-end motherboard. Way back in the day when I had a 8350, the FX series processor, I used a Crosshair 5 Formula Z motherboard, and I loved it. It was a great motherboard for what that processor was at the time, and it handled overclocking well on it. It handled heat dissipation. It was a great motherboard. I would expect nothing less from this for their high-end stuff. However, and we're going to get to this in a moment, that motherboard is expected to be extremely expensive, something like 2 times plus the price of what people typically paid for the Crosshair motherboards in the past, or the Crosshair formulas, that is. They're going to have their Crosshair 8 Hero as well, the Crosshair 8 Impact, which is going to be the mini DTX motherboard. We've got the Strix X570E Gaming, which I expect that one to be a very popular motherboard, that and the X570F Gaming. These are the Strix series motherboards, both ATX. A few more features on the X570E versus X570F. Obviously, they'll save some money on the X570F motherboard. But I expect those to be kind of the meat of where people are going to be buying things from ASUS if they go that route. And then they're going to have that mini ITX motherboard, which I'm actually very interested in, the X570i. Real straightforward. You can see it's got the DIMM slots. This the Crosshair 8 Impact. I am expecting that to be like basically a overclocking motherboard, and we can visit that here in a second. We'll look a little more closely at these. You're gonna have your PCIe comparisons here, and yes, these are going to be PCIe Gen 4, a lot faster bandwidth or throughput than what PCIe 3 is. Keep in mind, the only real benefit you're going to see it right off the bat could be potentially with storage, not so much graphics cards, as they're not even utilizing the full bandwidth on PCIe Gen 3 as it is right now. So if you're buying it for gaming, I personally am going to be looking at an X470 motherboard with the 3000 series processors for that. I unless I start getting into some needs, and I probably will do a review on one or a couple of the X570 motherboards, and specifically I'll show you which one I'm really excited about. It's one from Aorus, but we'll get into that. Anyway, so you got with these, you're gonna have your M.2 slots, which is pretty much a standard now, which is really nice. It's gonna talk about your SATA ports, Ethernet. I'm still very disappointed that on the motherboards that are gonna be as expensive as they're expecting these to be, that they're still only offering 5G, and even on the Hero 2.5G. These should be 10G LANs. I am very disappointed with that. Again, I'll show you why. I am happy, however, that with the Wi-Fi, they are including these as 802.11ax, except for on the ITX board. Again, a little interesting there, but whatever. Nice audio setups. They have good connectivity. Obviously, for those who like their RGB puke, it's going to all be there. Their flagship, obviously, is going to be the Crosshair 8 formula. Basically, this thing's supposed to be a beast. It's going to have the onboard water cooling for the VRMs right off the bat from EK, just like the Maximus Formula series on the Intel side. This is going to be the water cooling board on the AMD side. I expect this board to be beautiful. I expect it to overclock these processors very well. Overall, I think these are going to be fantastic boards. We're going to get into the prices here in just a little bit. And then they're talking about, you know, the capabilities that are going to be on here. Real straightforward, simple. I'll let you go ahead and read through these. I'm interested to see these motherboards. I would expect, again, that the lineup of the Strix and then the Impact here is very interesting with the two DIMM slots. This is really more of an overclocker's board, I would suspect. I'm hoping to get my hands on one of these at some point just to see what kind of a difference it does make in overclocking compared to, say, the formula. Here's where I expect the meat of the sales to be with Asus, and that would be in the X570E and the X570F motherboards, partially due to mostly due to the price point, and because they are loaded with features. They don't have some of the unnecessary ones, or I shouldn't say unnecessary, but more high-end ones. The included water blocks from EK, for example, on the formula. But still, I expect these to be great motherboards. And like I said, this ITX board, I think this is going to be a beautiful board for those small form factor builds. I'm really excited to see how these come out. However, before I get into the other motherboards I'm really excited for, we're going to reference an article from Tech Power Up, and they titled it Alleged Asus AMD X570 Motherboard Price List. Paints a horror story. And when I glance through these, I would very much agree. We're going to start off with where I expect people to be buying these motherboards, and that will be in that Strix area, right? So, but we're going to start from the bottom here. They're saying that they're expecting the cheapest X570 motherboard from Asus to be the Prime X570P, priced at $160. That's kind of pricey for their Prime boards, and I wanted to see here if they posted these in here. So your Prime X570P or your X570 Pro probably a really good motherboard. I mean, there's stuff, again, is. But starting at $160, that's it's quite a price hike just for a starting point. I'm really surprised at that. Their tough X570 Plus will be around 170, and then if you have the Wi-Fi, you're looking around 185, and then they start just getting more and more expensive from there. There's talking about these Strix gaming ones to be around $330. To put that in perspective, I just picked up the B450. Now, I know that's not an X470, but still, the B450, which is a great motherboard for a 2700X for around $130. I'm sorry, the motherboard was $89. Actually, the processor was around $130. But $89 for a fantastic motherboard. Now they're talking about around a $330 price point, and then they go up from there. The Crosshair, they're expected to be around $380, which is pretty dang expensive, especially, we're going to take a look here on Newegg and on Amazon as well for the Crosshair. And they're around $275 with the Wi-Fi, $255, $254 without. So they're talking about a $100 price increase just to have the X570 price set, which really all that really is the PCIe 4.0 lanes and the 802.11ax. I get that, but is that worth $100? I'm going to say no, but I guess only time will tell, and we'll see how quickly it sells, or if people are more opted or more interested in buying the 470s to start, which might slow down the expected sales of the X570s. Be very curious. And then it gets nuts from here. Even more nuts, I should say. They're talking about $700 for the Crosshair 8 formula. That's over twice what the old Crosshair 5 Formula Zs were, which were high-end FX overclocking motherboards. I hope these are wrong. I doubt they are. I mean, Tech Power Up isn't going to go out and post stuff that is completely wrong, but usually. When you compare that with the processor that they're wanting to sell, or pair with it, which would be that 3950X, which is probably a $750 process according to this, you're talking about almost $1,500 just for your motherboard and processor on a Ryzen AMD system. I really hope that changes quickly. I don't know that I expect it will, but that is what we've got coming from Asus. I'm going to jump into Aorus here. Aorus. This is what I'm excited for, and I'll show you why. One of the biggest drawbacks to me is the fact that they're going to have to, because of the power load, the TDP, for the PCIe Gen 4, of having a fan directly on the motherboard, which we know presents another point of potential failure, and also gives you another source for noise. And those little fans, high RPMs, are usually very noisy. So I am, one, curious to see how those turn out. But two, Aorus is offering the only one out there that I have found at this point, or that I've come across, the X570 Aorus Extreme motherboard. This is going to have completely passive cooling, no fan over the that chipset down there, which I think could really be fantastic. I think that this motherboard looks beautiful. I'm excited to see how it is. The connectivity on this thing looks fantastic, and we're going to take a look at that right here. Did I not click on it? I thought I did. There we go. Whoa. I hate it when they have sound on these websites. It drives me nuts. they're taken off of after Asus's clear CMOS button right on the back of the motherboard. They're going to have a BIOS flash, an easy flash, if you will, just like Asus. And you're going to see the rest of their connectivity. They're going to have their USB Type-C, you get your 3.1s, you've got your USB 3.0s. Only thing I don't see on here that I would like to have seen, especially depending upon where these price points are going to be, I would have liked to have seen Thunderbolt on here, but nonetheless, I'm going to digress off of that. What I do like is the fact that it does have built-in Wi-Fi 6, so the 802.11ax Wi-Fi on here, as well as a 10 gig landline or a LAN connection. That is where I feel Asus is falling short. They're just basically saying, we're not going to give it to you because we don't have to. We probably bought all this stuff and we're going to use it and we don't care if it doesn't seem to really compete with this. Supposedly, Aorus is also, or Gigabyte is going to be redoing their BIOS. I'm curious to see if that actually happens. If it does, I'm hoping it's more in line with what Asus is doing. Regardless, I'm really excited for the fact that, again, no fan, passive cooling, and if this works, this could be one of the best motherboards for X570. It's been my experience that the Asus motherboards, you can overclock more stable overclocks on their motherboards, and Gigabyte's got issues with their RGB, which I'm not going to say that Asus doesn't. They shouldn't be writing software anyway. They got a nightmare on their hands there. But I think that the features of this motherboard, the fact that it's going to be color neutral, you can use the RGB lighting to control how your system's going to look. I think this is a beautiful, beautiful motherboard. They have their PCIe Gen 4 slots. As you can see here, you're going to have 3 of them. You're going to have your you have multiple M.2 connectors on this board. I think this is going to be a fantastic motherboard. Back to the remaining, or the other X570s from Aorus. And again, it's not that the rest of them are going to suck or anything. It's just that I'm most excited for this because of the fact it's not going to have the onboard fan. You got the rest of theirs. They're 570 Master, Elite, Aorus Pro, and obviously each one of these is going to be a slight step down in performance and price. I am curious about their ITX motherboard, the Pro Wi-Fi for the smaller form factors. I think that this will be a real pretty board. I would expect that it's going to perform very well again. It's got a nice set of features on it. It's going to have the dual PCIe 4.0 M.2 slots on here, 802.11x. It seems to be pretty standard going forward here. Your USB 3.1 Gen 2 Type-C's on here. Obviously, they're going to advertise their RGB Fusion. Again, that's not really a selling point to me as much anymore, as everything's got the RGB puke on it. But I do think that this will be a real an interesting motherboard as well. Moving over to ASRock, they've got their new Tai Chi shown here, as well as their X570 Phantom Gaming. I would probably expect the Phantom Gaming to be a very popular board as well for those that like the ASRock motherboards. I think that this Tai Chi looks real interesting as well. Again, 802.11ax, very standard right now as we're noticing. Bluetooth 5.0. It supports pretty good, or I should say pretty good, but very good memory overclocking. 3 PCIe 4.0 slots at 16 by 16 each. 2 PCIe 4.0 by 1s. 7.1 channel HD audio. Real nice. We're going to see how that sounds. Plenty of connectivity with your SATA and your for your M.2 slots. Your 3 USB 3.2 Gen 2. You have your rear Type A and C's. 8 USB 3.2 Gen 1 to the front, 6 on the rear. And then Intel Gigabyte LAN. I would like to have seen again some higher end LAN connection on it, like what, I'll even say at this point, like what Asus is at least doing at the 2.5 or the 5G. Again, I think 10G LAN would be more appropriate, especially considering that we're going to start seeing routers coming out that can support the higher bandwidths as well, the better switches, so on and so forth. Moving over to MSI, they're going to have theirs. Obviously, their top-end, overpriced, crazy expensive motherboard will be their X570 Godlight, which, frankly, looks nice. I think that, again, this is subjective, my opinion. I think that the Aorus and the Asus ones look more attractive to me than the X570. But again, that is a subjective opinion. You're going to have multiple M.2 slots on here. Obviously the fan here looks like it could be a little bit larger than what some of the other fans are to take care of the chipset cooling. I would have liked to have seen some of these companies come out and try what Aorus is trying with their passive cooling on their Extreme. I'm still very, very curious, very nervous about the onboard fans. One thing I do like that the Godlike does have is it does have the 10G LAN on it. They got their high-end audio DAC as well. I think that this is going to be a good motherboard. I think it's going to be extremely expensive. Is it going to be worth that kind of money? I don't know. Or whatever kind of money it is, I would expect if it's going to be anything like the Intel-based item, probably around $500 to $600, somewhere in that range. I hope not, with it being AMD. One of the draws of AMD has always been that a little bit lower price, so more value for the performance, more budget-minded, and it seems like things might start to get a little away from that when it comes to the motherboard or the hardware side, away from just the CPU itself. I'm excited to see that it's now forcing Intel to start slashing their prices. That will be really good. I think that they've been a little overly arrogant about the value of their CPUs as they keep re-releasing the same old with slight modifications, just because that's a way for them to continue to basically price gouge the customers. This lineup looks great from anywhere from the Godlike down to the Ace, down to the Gaming Pro Carbon Wi-Fi, and then their X570 Creation, which will be their entry level for MSI. This video is just nothing but a quick overview of what's coming out there. I'm going to put these links in the video to all of these, including the pricing for the CPUs, the expected pricing for the Asus motherboards. Obviously, this was just a quick overview. We're just trying to get an idea of what's coming out. AMD has always been that value-added proposition of something that people can afford, will give you some performance. In years past, and there was a period of time when it really wasn't much for performance, so people were shying away from them and going back to Intel because Intel was just simply the best. And then here comes Ryzen. First gen, people are like, oh, this is really interesting. There's a lot of benefit here. There's a lot of performance. This is unlike AMD in the past several years. And then they come out with the next release or the next rendition of that first gen, which was the 2000 series processors. Again, another leap forward, more cores, great prices. And then again, here now we're coming out with what they're calling the 3000 series processors, or Gen 2 Ryzen. A little confusing there. Personally, I'd call it Gen 3, but whatever. So the Ryzen 3000 series, and again, prices are right there for the same type of prices. I mean, the 3700X is supposed to be priced the same as the 2700X was at release, and more performance. But now we're seeing the motherboards companies, so the Asus especially, who, let's be honest, their stuff is just expensive. Starts off at insane prices. I believe that they think that they're worth this additional price, even though they probably aren't. I mean, I don't want this to sound like I hate Asus, because I don't. I like their products. I hate their customer service, because that doesn't really exist. But it seems to me like they're getting really expensive. Now these items are being priced, or supposedly are going to be priced very similar to what Intel motherboards have been, which again, that's kind of getting away from where the entire point of having an AMD system has been, and that has been price to performance. Having something that is going to appeal more to the public, the general public, that can now afford to increase the performance, have a better experience at a very competitive price. And it seems like the motherboards companies are saying, we're going to go ahead and charge them like what we think the Intels are going to be. So we're going to say they're equal. So now you're talking about spending only a slight difference in processor compared to Intel potentially, and the same price on the motherboards. I don't think that's really benefiting the Asus the way that it has been in the past, where you have this pure budget-friendly, budget-minded system that still had performance. I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope it doesn't drive people away from AMD just because it's going to outprice them, but I am concerned about that. I think that AMD's hook has always been price, value, performance. I'm not sure what to think. Anyway, this was just a quick overview. Wanted to throw my thoughts in there as we're quickly approaching the July 7th release date for the Ryzen 3000 series processors. Nothing really exciting here. So if you've got any comments, you want to throw something in, you think I missed something, you think, I don't know, I'm out of my gourd, and you just want to argue with me, that's fine. I'll leave your comments below. I hope you liked today's video. It's just a short one again. Thumbs up if you did. If you didn't like it, you know what else to do. Please hit that subscribe button, share, and I hope to see you stick around for the ones I got coming up here. Have a good day. Today we're going to take a quick look or an overview of the upcoming X570 motherboards with the release of the Ryzen 3000 blah 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 blah. I can't talk today.